started as something small, barely noticeable at first. Every evening when Sarah sat on the couch, their golden retriever, Max, would quietly sit beside her, his eyes fixed on her face, his body tense, as if he sensed something no one else could. At first, Sarah thought it was just affection. Max was always a gentle, loving dog, rescued from the shelter 3 years ago when Sarah and her husband, Daniel, first moved into their new home. But lately, something about Max's behavior had changed. He'd growl softly whenever Daniel came too close, or bark at the door when Daniel returned late from work. Daniel laughed it off. "He's just being protective of you," he'd say with a chuckle, ruffling Max's head. "Guess he thinks you need guarding." Sarah smiled weakly, but deep down, she felt uneasy. Max was not just protective, he was warning her. Sarah had married Daniel 5 years ago. He was charming at first, confident, successful, and sweet. But over the years, that sweetness turned into something darker. His words, once tender, began to sting. His patience, once endless, ran thin. He didn't hit her, not yet, but his anger came in waves. He'd slam doors, throw things, call her names. And every time, he'd apologize later, bringing her flowers, swearing it would never happen again. Max always knew when something was about to go wrong. He'd sit by Sarah's side, pressing his head into her lap, as if trying to protect her from what was coming. And whenever Daniel raised his voice, Max would step between them, his fur bristling, his teeth bared in silent defiance. Daniel didn't like that. "Control your dog," he snapped one night after an argument. "He's becoming a problem." Sarah said nothing. She simply held Max closer. Then, the strange thing started happening. Every night, after Daniel left for his late shifts, Max would nudge Sarah's arm insistently. He'd bark softly, then lead her toward the hallway, toward the small guest room at the back of the house. He'd stand there, whining and pawing at the floor. Sarah didn't understand. "What is it, boy?" she'd whisper, kneeling beside him. Max would stare at her, tail still, body tense. Sometimes he'd look up at the ceiling. Sometimes at the vent. It made her uneasy. One night, after another one of Daniel's outbursts, she decided to follow Max's lead more closely. He guided her into the room again, scratched at the corner of the carpet. Beneath it, she noticed a small crack, a loose floorboard. Curious, she pried it open. Inside was a small metal box. Her hands trembled as she opened it. Inside were photographs, letters, her letters, ones she thought she had thrown away years ago. And worse, photos of her with her friends, her mother, even ones she didn't remember being taken. And then, there were the voice recordings. Small tapes labeled with dates. Her blood ran cold. She pressed play. It was her voice, crying, pleading. Daniel's voice shouting in the background. The first time it happened, Ethan laughed. His big German shepherd, Rex, ran straight to his little daughter Lily the moment she came home from school, whining and pawing at her leg as if trying to tell her something. Lily giggled, thinking Rex just wanted to play. But the second, third, and 10th time it happened, the laughter stopped feeling so innocent. Rex had started acting strange. Every time Lily came home, he'd bark frantically and circle around her. Sometimes he'd whimper, nudge her stomach, or lick the same spot on her lower back. He wouldn't stop until Lily sat down, and even then, he stayed glued to her side, protective and tense. Ethan brushed it off at first, thinking the dog was just being affectionate. But when Rex started growling whenever Ethan's wife, Claire, tried to touch Lily's backpack or jacket, something inside him shifted. It didn't make sense. Rex had always loved Claire. They'd raised him since he was a puppy, trained him together, laughed when he tried to sneak on the couch. But now, he seemed terrified of her, or worse, angry. One night, Ethan woke to hear muffled sobbing. He found Lily sitting on the floor of her room, clutching Rex tightly. "Hey, sweetheart," he said gently. "What's wrong?" Lily's voice trembled. "Please don't tell Mom, she'll get mad." Ethan froze. Why would Mom get mad? Lily's eyes filled with tears. "She doesn't like when I talk about Rex. She says he's bad." Before Ethan could ask more, Rex growled, low, protective, toward the hallway where Claire was standing, her face unreadable. I told you, she said coldly. That dog is getting out of control. The next morning, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was deeply wrong. He dropped Lily off at school and drove home in silence. When he arrived, he found Rex sitting by Lily's door, whining softly, refusing to move. "Buddy," Ethan whispered, kneeling beside him. "What are you trying to tell me?" Rex looked at him, eyes sad and pleading. He pawed again toward the small spot on the wall near Lily's bed, the same place he always sniffed. Ethan leaned closer. There was a faint stain, barely visible. Something dark. He felt his stomach twist. That night, when Claire went to the store, Ethan checked the house cameras, something he hadn't done in months. At first, everything looked normal. Then, he saw it. Claire. Yelling. Grabbing Lily's arm. Pushing her against the wall. Lily didn't scream, she just cried silently. And Rex. Rex lunged toward Claire, barking furiously until she shoved him away. Ethan's hands shook as he watched the video. Every piece of confusion, every strange behavior, every time Rex had growled, it all made sense now. Rex wasn't being aggressive. He was protecting Lily. When Claire came home that night, Ethan was waiting in the living room. The security footage was playing on the TV. She froze. "Ethan. I can explain." "No," he said, his voice low and shaking. "You can't.